All right, guys. Saagar's up next.
Yeah,
what are you looking at?
Okay. It's been a tough year for me. I was wrong about inflation, Russia, Dr. Oz, probably a lot more than my critics will catalog. As you all know, I'll happily eat crow should the time come. So it's time to do something to make myself feel better, and one of my absolute favorite things to do, according to people in my life. Say the magic words, "I told you so!" We've spent a lot of time today talking about the results of the Kansas abortion referendum. After the Dobbs decision, a lot of pro-life people in Washington talked a really big game. Their theory of the case was this: yes, the repeal of Roe versus Wade is unpopular, but voters in Texas never revolted against a 6-week ban earlier in the year. The economy is terrible, inflation is rampant, Biden can barely speak. In general, their theory was that yes, while people said they don't agree with Roe on paper, it wouldn't really matter because it was not at the top of their preference. You could understand how they got there. It is a viable political opinion to hold. But it was also now clear that was cope to a massive degree. As I would often say in reply, a Texas 6-week ban is not the same as casting the abortion question to national politics in one fell swoop for the first time in 40 years. And the attendant media attention. Nor does a 6-week ban come even close to some of the rhetoric of the top Republicans in the country, including the former Vice President Mike Pence, who called for an outright ban on abortion minutes after the decision. Nor does it capture the political energy galvanized by Clarence Thomas, his concurrence on Roe versus Wade, that called into question the decisions on gay marriage and contraception. As I tried to emphasize, a national repeal is simply different. I was laughed at, called a number of names. Reality has a pleasant way, though, of hitting people in the face. And that is what occurred in Kansas. As we've already spelled out, the results are stunning. Kansas voters, at a margin of 58% for keeping abortion in the state versus 41%, voted overwhelmingly to protect a state Supreme Court decision which said that Kansas citizens had a right to an abortion. It is a fascinating result in its own right. More so is the fact that there is literally no way to spin this. As we have said, there was no major Democratic race on the ballot. This is not a purple state in any sense of the word. Trump won Kansas by a smaller margin than his abortion referendum, and he beat Biden there by 15 points. This is about as red as it gets. Furthermore, Kansas just set the record for the number of voters who came out in an off year. And not even on the day of the actual election, there were just primaries going on. So the facts are clear as day. Repealing Roe was an insanely popular move, even in a deep red state, where voters affirmatively chose to come out and keep abortion available in their state. This vindicates the political theory I have put forward as the winning path forward for Republicans, which, yes, I know the name is cringe, but most of you will be familiar with at this point. Barstool Conservatism. Again, for those who have not yet heard me or others describe this thesis, here it is. Culture wars of today are winning grounds for the center-right position. That culture war has little today with abortion, gay marriage, or guns. Instead, it is a battle over political correctness, gender ideology, especially pushed on children, critical race theory, insane academic nomenclature for Hispanics. You get the ideal. In a nutshell, wokeism. A political orientation against being woke and protecting a quasi-libertarian ideal that people should just be left alone to do what they please. That's what tracks onto this. You can see how this worked out with the right coalescing around anti-vax mandates and increasingly becoming aligned with the free speech movement on a national level. A national civic social libertarianism was increasingly becoming its organizing principle, and that is exactly what was so responsible for much of the political gain. Florida, in South Texas, with Hispanic voters, with millions who joined the Trump coalition in 2020, as a screw you to people who wanted to govern their lives. That is how you explain how Dave Portnoy and Elon Musk became Republicans after the year of 2020. But it was turned upside down when Roe versus Wade was repealed and put especially on the spotlight when Barstool founder Dave Portnoy, who has become a political bellwether in his own right, declared he would vote for Democrats based upon the decision. Many true conservatives said, "Good riddance, Dave. You're not a real Republican anyways." But perhaps they may want to rethink that position. Given the fact that there were competitive GOP primaries in Kansas, initial data out of the state indicates tens of thousands of Republicans both voted for Stop the Steal candidates and cast their vote to keep a right to have an abortion. Now tell me, if you only listen to the pundits in Washington who say that you can't be a Republican and not be pro-life, how would you square that? What I love about this is it vindicates that people are not automatons. If they care about something and it goes against their party, they'll still vote for it. That is exactly what they did. In fact, the reasons that they did so only further vindicate the Barstool conservative thesis. Conservative pundit Ben Dominic actually writes in The Spectator that the pro-choice left won with Republican voters in Kansas specifically because they embraced the language of freedom with the group who was pushing to preserve abortion, billing itself as, quote, Kansas for constitutional freedom. Just look at how the group messaged to voters in one of its major ad campaigns across the state.
This confusing constitutional amendment is a slippery slope for Kansas. It gives government more power over your privacy and your personal medical decisions. Don't let politicians take away your freedom. Send a message. Vote no.
As Ben himself, who is pro-life, writes, quote, the pro-abortion left, having set back by the Dobbs decision, was going to have to adopt a new playbook in red states. Their success in red Kansas means a softer, gentler, anti-mandate, pro-freedom approach to abortion will be deployed in the upcoming ballots in states like Kentucky and Michigan. Anti-mandate, pro-freedom. Why would those words resonate after two massive national fights over vaccines and guns, where Republicans were clearly on that side? Again, it underscores my point. Social libertarianism, not social conservatism, is the organizing principle of the emerging GOP coalition. It's more about, hey, don't tell me how to speak. Don't push your BS onto my kids. Don't take away my guns, and do whatever you please in the privacy of your house, but don't try to govern what happens in mine. That is a reversal of the religious right, who in the mid-2000s, it underscores strongly the path to winning is simple. Whichever side is seen to be protecting you from the crazy people who want to run your life, that side will win. For a time in American politics, that was the left. But the resurgent religious right will learn the hard way why they originally lost on the national stage in the first place. The right can learn this lesson and still win, or they can pretend it didn't happen and continue to defend the idea that a 10-year-old rape victim needing to carry a baby to term. We all know what they will choose to do. And so they will offset their chance to actually win popular vote election for at least the next several years. Now, I have personally resigned myself to the yo-yo of American politics, despite how bad it is for the country, because at least I get to say the words, I told you so. So it's fun, Crystal. I mean, you know, a lot of people eating crow, a lot of real pro-lifers out there with their mouths shut, crying about money.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.